I think there are multi-layered challenges. First thing is that tech stack of banks have to also change, and they have to make provision for APIs to be available. There needs to be some kind of standards and framework by which APIs can be published. So it started with a very basic ground up build standards framework for banks to publish the API. Fintechs, by design, naturally are API driven. They want to always plug in with their APIs or use APIs to provide the services. So we didn't have much of challenge on the fintech side, but definitely we had some challenge on the banking side or the in financial sector side because their architecture was not designed for such collaboration. So that's one step. Step two, even fintechs sometimes don't really understand the expectation of the regulators from the banks when they do outsourcing management. Because to me, when you publish an API, a third-party fintech is using for a certain service for the bank, it is an outsourced provider. Banks have been mandated by the regulators very strict outsourcing guidelines, and fintechs typically don't have the resilience and the tech strength to be a strong outsourcing partner because they don't invest on other controls. So because they're a young company, they're just starting their journey. They may not have enough capital to build resilient industry-grade multi-client systems. So that's the second problem. How does fintech upgrade themselves, have the right kind of structure so that they can actually work with a bank which is governed by regulators in terms of tech risk management guidelines, which banks are subscribed, are expected to follow. So that's the second layer challenge. Get the fintechs to the level of banks' expectation of outsourcing arrangement. And third challenge is manpower, talent, people. So we got to figure out how to upgrade our own talent base. So these people and engineers who work with the bank are started getting used to the new way of designing systems, APIs, connectivity, integration. So there are the three challenges which we had to go through to make it work. As I say, I use open banking as the architecture layer rather than the product itself. So the whole process of API-driven architecture, which means you have API consent authorization and using that underlying information, is to me open banking. And banking doesn't have to be always banking product. Simple example, in Singapore, today if you want to open a bank account, all you have to do is go to a public infrastructure called MyInfo and you consent. It pulls all the trusted data from that infrastructure and give it to the bank to open an account remotely, 100% fully KYC'd. So that's one example of simplifying customer onboarding process by using such architecture. Second example, today in Singapore, we can move money from bank account A to bank account B by just knowing your respective mobile phone number or national ID. Just you put a mobile phone number, you put an amount, and you press enter, 3 clicks, 0 cost, money moves. Again, based on this kind of architecture. Third, specifically to the open banking under classical definition, we have today what you call as an integrated wealth management product, which means today in Singapore, I can go to any bank and from that bank, I can pull from other banks all my financial data and see in a single place. And I can do my retirement planning, my wealth planning efficiently. So there are many such examples which comes as part of this integration and the architecture. Of course, there are further downstream example on wealth advisory, wealth planning, insurance services, and we're also upgrading our own infrastructure to bring other asset class players to that whole architectural shift.